Good evening, and welcome to the show, darlings. I'm your broadcast host, Astro, of the Witching Hour radio show. At this point, I'm sure you've noticed that if you try to change the frequency, it hasn't worked. Well, I regret to inform you that it is already too late. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you are not already aware, of which I'm sure you are, this podcast delves into the stories of mythology, urban legends, and the occult. I would recommend settling into your comfiest blankets with a cup of warm coffee or tea for this evening's frightful episode. We will focus on the hauntings of my beloved hometown, the American South. I do hope you enjoy this first story. It comes from my childhood summer camp. Don't look out your window when you're listening to The Red Eyes. During the break in between summer camp sessions, most counselors will go home and spend time with their family. As it happens, there was a large storm predicted, so one of the counselors decided to stay. For the sake of fluidity, we'll call her Olivia. There's still debate of which counselor it was. Now, Olivia is a smart cookie. She doesn't believe in superstition. When the storm hits that night, she settles into bed with a book, her dog curled up at the foot of her bed. How cute. I feel obligated to explain to you the layout of the cabins at this camp. The main area of the cabins has a front door and a porch door, and it can fit about a dozen beds in it. The bathroom is a connected room with 2 showers and 2 toilet stalls. In both rooms, windows are on the walls near the roof. All of the cabins have electricity, but of course, the storm kicked off the electricity in Olivia's cabin. She decided it was time to sleep then, but there was a scratching noise on the wall beside her. Dogs are smart creatures, often believed to have the ability to sense supernatural beings. Olivia is not a dog, however, and decides it's just tree branches blowing in the heavy wind. But then, the scratches seem like they're coming from all over the cabin. Olivia's dog is whining, and Olivia is only beginning to get concerned. Scratch, scratch, scratch. And just as soon as it started, it stopped. And so did the storm. If you know anything about the South, you know that most storms have a second wave. Olivia's dog starts scratching on the door, and she lets it out, thinking it would come back. Poor creature. She watches it run deep into the woods, and, in the distance, she sees a pair of glowing red eyes. It's dark outside, and she can't see what the eyes are. Then she hears the whistling. She feels a chill run down her spine, and she slams the door, hiding under her sheets. The scratching starts again, and the scratching turns into banging. The door handle rattles, and there's scratching on the door. The red eyes appear, circling around the windows. Olivia's scared now, and runs into the bathroom trying to hide. But the sounds follow her. Bang, bang, bang. A week later, the counselors return, but no one has seen Olivia. Her cabin was locked, so people looked around the woods for her. No Olivia, but they did find her dog, nailed to a tree. They go back to the cabin and bust in, finding Olivia in the corner, rocking back and forth, just whistling. There is, in fact, a prequel to this story. The camp I was referring to has been around since 1923. In the 50s, a group of work boys, as they were called, left the grounds to explore land the camp could expand to. They canoed up the river and brought camping supplies to stay overnight in the woods. I don't know about you, but that would not be my first thought. Sleeping in dark woods? Creepy. Anyway, at one of their campsites, one of the men had to leave the site in the middle of the night and saw red eyes in the distance. Of course, he didn't think much of it, like Olivia, and went back to the campsite to sleep. In the morning, they found a squirrel nailed to a tree next to their camp. They were a little freaked out, as you could imagine, but they didn't let it deter them. These occurrences continued until they reached a clearing further up the river. It was no normal clearing, however. It was ritualistic in nature. There were large pointed stones set in a circle in the middle of the clearing, and each tree that circled around it had a squirrel or a similar woodland creature nailed to a tree. Then there was the whistling, and the red eyes appeared again. The work boys did not stick around, and they all ran for their canoes to leave. On their way back to the main campgrounds, they saw red eyes peering at them through the trees. Of course, they did end up expanding in later years, and rumor has it that whatever was out there is not happy about it. It may shock you to hear that those stories were all true. At least, that's what we've been told. As a matter of fact, this next one is deeply rooted in real, tangible history. Let's move on to something a little more family-friendly, shall we say. Here's a popular one from Alabama, The Face in the Courthouse Window. In 1876, Pickens County built a second courthouse after the first one was set on fire during the Civil War. A lot of details about the burning of the second courthouse is cloudy from being passed through word of mouth, and what we do know has been local folklore for years. Henry Wells, a freed slave, was accused and convicted of setting the second courthouse on fire. According to this story, he was apprehended in Fairfield, Alabama, and brought to the courthouse for sentencing. In protest of his arrest, he threatened to haunt his accusers for the rest of their lives. One night, Wells was looking out at a lynch mob from the window at the top of the courthouse where the jail was. It was storming that night, and, as it happens, a lightning bolt struck the window, killing Wells and imprinting his face onto the window forever. Even presently, you can still see the eerie face in the window. Yes, I know it was short, but I hope it was still as chilling as I found it to be when I first heard it. For our next story, we'll be moving west to Mississippi for Stuckey's Bridge. In the late 1800s, there was a group of infamous train robbers called the Dalton Gang. Rumor has it that one of the members was left behind in Mississippi, tired, hungry, and completely alone. The man's name was Stuckey. It is said that he established an inn along the banks of the Chunky River. When evening came, he would walk across the bridge with his lantern and lure travelers into the inn for a comfortable bed and a hearty meal. Once the guests had drifted into their dreamland, Stuckey would viciously murder them, stealing their belongings, and bury their bodies on the riverbank. Stuckey claimed more than 20 victims by the time the local sheriff caught him. He was tried for his crimes and hung on the very bridge he used to cross. His lifeless body was left to rot on the bridge, swinging back and forth for 5 days. After that, the noose was cut and his body fell into its watery grave. Since then, there have been sightings of Stuckey's apparition at the bridge. Some say they see an old man carrying a lantern at the water's edge, and some see Stuckey's body drop into the watery depths of the river. Some sightings include Stuckey's body swaying on the rope, even when there is no wind. There have even been claims of Stuckey's furious spirit pushing visitors off the bridge, but I cannot confirm these allegations. Either way, the bridge has affectionately been called Stuckey's Bridge, and it has long since been abandoned from transportation use. However, if you're brave enough, you can still go to the bridge in the woods and try to catch a glimpse of the old killer. Let's move on to Georgia. I'd be remiss in my duty tonight as a ghostly storyteller if I neglected to mention Savannah, Georgia. One of the most haunted buildings, if not the most haunted, is the Moon River Brewing Company. Something that is widely regarded as an accurate statistic in the ghost hunting community is that ghosts will only occur if they have had a violent or tragic death. Personally, I don't believe this. Regret, expectations, and, above all, strong emotions are powerful aspects of the human experience. Humans could not be what they are without these three things. and if they are left unresolved at the end of their life, that is what allows them to become ghosts. However, they are typically unresolved if a person's life has been ended unexpectedly or violently, which explains the majority belief. It should be noted that every floor of the Moon River building is haunted, but the top floor and the basement are known to be the most haunted. This building is extremely old and has seen its fair share of death. It was a stand-in hospital on more than one occasion for wounded soldiers and disease outbreaks, specifically yellow fever. It gives me no joy to say this, but most of the people that have died in the building were children sick with yellow fever. I would like to take this moment to say that it's always a tragedy felt by a whole community when a child's life is suddenly gone, when their futures are snatched away from them. I do not intend for this to be a mockery of their memories for entertainment, nor as proof of their existence as ghosts. No person deserves to die so young. That's all that must be said. The basement is known to have the most activity, with ghosts supposedly throwing bottles and shoving guests. On the staircase of the third floor, there is a full-body apparition who pushes guests on the stairs. There is a story about this ghost, in fact, that says the wife of a foreman leading renovations on the building was pushed down the stairs, killing her. The foreman promptly ended construction and left, never to return. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems mighty suspicious to me. As one goes up the building, there are less and less ghost sightings. There have been reports of little to no ghostly activity on the top floor. People who have been to the top floor say that there was a dark energy and empty atmosphere. Some speculate that the reason for that is no one, not even ghosts, find it appropriate to disturb the place where the young have died too soon. If hearing this story was not enough, I recommend that you spend a week in Savannah and invest in one of their ghost tours. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. I'm afraid that's all we have time for tonight. I do hope you've enjoyed our time together, as I have enjoyed your company. I'll see you all another evening, so be sure to tune in.